Hello everyone, welcome to William and the Magic Box. Today on our show, we are going to have Christian. Christian is from Boston in the USA. So let's see what Christian has to say. Enjoy the interview.
Perfect. Am I suggestive? Should I button up? My goodness. I probably am. This is an adult. This is a family situation.
No, it's just be yourself. Just feel comfortable with yourself.
Myself, I wouldn't have any pants on. All right, so now that looks weird. All right, whatever.
All good, all good. So how are you, Christian? Should I call you Christian or Chris?
Christian. There are too many Chris's in this world.
That's so true. That's so true. I know a few of them.
Oh.
Christian, so tell me.
At their monthly meetings, they actually discuss why I'm problematic for not becoming a Chris, but I'm holding strong. I'm going to stay in my tower.
Amazing. I like that. Christian, so tell me, where are you from before we start the game?
Are we started?
No, we started, but the game haven't started yet. So it's already part of the interview.
The game is always on with me. So we've started the game. No, I don't like when I come forward, you get a lot of head. I am from Massachusetts in the United States. I'm from Boston, where I identify as Bostonian because I've been here 35 years. So I'm Bostonian. As a young boy, I grew up just outside the city. So technically my birthplace is not Boston, but it's Massachusetts. And fun, dumb fact, the founding of Boston was a port. So basically all of Massachusetts for like 300 years was called Boston, because where are you from? I come from Boston. So we still kind of uphold that tradition in Massachusetts, and you can be 20 minutes outside the city and say Boston. And I'm sorry about that noise. They're putting in, is there a lot of background noise? All right, I'll fix that. Go on. That's where I'm from, Boston.
Right. Actually, I've been there. The last time I went to the US, we drove from Montreal in Canada to Boston, and we also went to to Cape Cod. All there in Cape Cod.
Where in Cape Cod did you go?
Oh my God, good question. We were exploring a few places, Provincetown. I remember Provincetown, we stopped there. Yeah, a place, it was the gayest place I've ever been in my life, to be honest with you.
Well, actually, can I actually clarify something to the world, to our world audience?
You certainly can.
What it is about Provincetown, the tradition there, it's not the gayest place. The tradition there is it's the least identified place. Let me explain. Everyone always says if they're a queer person, they don't have to say they're queer in Provincetown. That's very comfortable. But what queer people then forget is that straight people don't have to identify. They don't have to say I'm straight either. Nobody has to identify anything. And so it stands as an example of an operating community that flourishes and thrives, where there isn't this heavy demand that everybody has an identity and classify themselves sexually. In other words, your sexual life is still yours to do what you want, whether you're straight or gay, queer, bi, pan, poly, you name it. So that experience for a queer person will feel like, oh, I'm at home because I don't have to identify. But what you're actually not realizing is it's even bigger than just the queer experience. It actually shows that there are places where sexual identity isn't a political concern. It's not an economic concern. It's not, you don't have to introduce yourself via your sexual or romantic interests, which is why it's so comfortable, because we live in a world that demands you identify and all this. But here is this one place that you don't. So from most perspectives, people say it's the gayest place in the world. And because they're just not used to being completely integrated with everybody else without the need for identity. And to someone who's straight and lives in that sort of box, it's a culture shock, because, oh, this must be very gay. And it's not that it's very gay. It's very nothing. Like, surprise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Doesn't matter, folks. And I think it's a delight. And I love that it's in my state. And I'm one of those arrogant New Englanders, and I'm all about Massachusetts. So half your listeners just turned off on that alone, I'm sure.
I think the world is along with you. That's for sure. The whole world.
We'll find out.
Christian, so tell me a little bit about yourself. What do you do for a living? I know you're an entrepreneur, but I could see a list of things that you do for a living. So if you can briefly tell me a little bit about your career.
To the listening audience, the emphatic word there is briefly. because I think you already learned a little something about me. I identify, I mean, how do I identify? I say I'm a storyteller because that's an easy term for people to understand, but what it really is I'm an orator. That's my art. And people say oratory, and I'm like, yeah, it's the dumb dead art. You know, we use it all the time, and yet do we? And I say storyteller because that's the easy thing that someone can understand what a storyteller is. And people say, what do you do as a storyteller? And then I have to explain that, like, okay, career doesn't identify me. And I hope that for every single human being listening right now, career doesn't identify them. I hope that. Oh, I hope that so deeply. But hey, it's not a perfect world. So I always joke, I say, well, you know, I was teasing someone yesterday. Are you asking, what do I do for revenue to survive consumerist capitalism? Like that's really what people are asking, which I hate that question because it's now saying, I demand to respond to you based on your job. And that's how I want to talk to you right now. And that's why I'm asking, what do you do? Which is why I usually throw static at the question, like I just did. And I started giggling when you called me an entrepreneur, because it's not untrue, but wow, love that. So if people want to know what I do for revenue, I'm split across several projects that all use my talents. I've worked in brand design, and it's sort of, we'll say, like, it's sort of the creative end of marketing. A creative director, for people who are in the industry know what that is. For, you know, for small people, small enterprises. I don't, to say I'm anti-corporate would be light. I'm not anti-agency, so if anyone's got a job for a creative whiz, I'm right here. No, but yeah, like it's that's always been what I call my high-end waitering. Meaning, in life, we need to make money. Some people have things they want to do, and so they're doing those things. Those things don't make money, so I'm gonna get a job waitering, and they can waiter for 20 years because it doesn't crush their soul, and that's why they waiter, or landscape, or they pick a job that they can just do that they have talent and aptitude that doesn't kill them, and it's not their passion, but they can stick with it. This is me with design and branding. It's like, it's my high-end waitering. I also run a small operation, here comes the plug, in Boston called the Trike Hub, TRIKEHUB. It would help if I could spell my own enterprise. And what that is some people do know and some people don't know what a pedicab is. That's a giant tricycle where passengers sit in the back and a driver is up front. And most people think of them as fun drunk taxis because in most places that's how they operate. But here in Boston, it's weddings, it's events, it's tours, it's so many tours. We live in a gorgeous, beautiful city that's visually outstanding. And so what the Trike Hub does is it's the drivers. All these drivers are together and we work in a company to get people awesome entertainment, because pedicabs are entertainment. They're not a transportation mode, even though you get somewhere. Enough plugging on that, but that's the other thing I started a few years ago. So I'm one of the head collaborators of that, and the rest of the time I'm storytelling and writing, and it's just frustrating people with my my constant analytical views, and that's what I do. If you want to know what I do. Also, I do drink a lot of tea, and so you'll see me doing this the whole time. All right.
Amazing. Which kind of tea you drinking right now?
So I hate coffee, and people are like, "Oh, is it health?" And I'm like, no. There is something about the flavor of coffee. Since I was a child, I'll vomit. It's the flavor. It's not an allergy. It's something in it, and I get grossed out. So I've always loved tea, and I just because I drink so much, this is just like Trader Joe's Irish breakfast special. I just threw some ice in it, and I know we don't have a lot of time, but I would kill to tell people about this horrible mug that I drink it from. But that's a whole other story. That's another story for another time, I think. But you'll see me pull. Let's just say this is a $65 mug. It's probably a $4 mug, but somehow I was conned into paying $65 for it. So
I like
that's
the
what
color.
I'm drinking tea.
I like the
What's
color.
that?
I like the color.
It's a good color. I don't know if it's $65 worth of blue, but it's a nice blue. I'm into it.
Right. By the way, before we start the interview, are you recovered well for your surgery? I know you have vocal surgery a few weeks ago, and when I contacted you for the very first time, you're kind of about to do it, or you just have done. So all set now, are good?
William, thank you so much for psychically reading me, because I was sitting here having guilt saying, so there's certain ways I now have to speak and try to practice speaking. When I get excited, I tend to go up really high, and that's okay, but I have to be mindful of that. So it's ironic that I was just quietly thinking, Christian, you're going high. use your normal voice. And so I'm recovered, but now it's the therapy thing of learning how to not strain, which as a performer, I'm likely to do. Oh, that's the other thing. What else do? I do perform. I had a podcast. I'm probably bringing the podcast back. I do a lot of spoken word work. So yeah, that's tacking that on the other thing. And that leads into how I got an injury on my vocal cords. It was a polyp. I always tell people it's the same thing Adele had. And yet here I am post-surgery and I don't sound like Adele. And I think I have a case for a lawsuit because of that. But yeah, I am recovered, and it's now a therapeutic process to learn how to not ruin my voice so I don't go through that again, because it was quite a thing. Just so the audience knows, I had to go, oh my God, hardest thing I've ever done in my life, 10 days without making noise. Now people, the first jump they make is, oh my God, you not talking, yuck, yuck, yuck. And it's like, that's hard for anybody. People say, no, I'm very quiet. I'm like, no, everyone mutters to themselves. But here's the thing. I want everyone listening to think of this. Imagine if you can't even make what we will call incidental noise, like a yawn or a sigh or a hiccup, like no noise, not just no talking, no noise. Try to do that for even an hour and you will suddenly hear yourself and realize how much we're constantly making noises, even if it's not speaking. And that was the hardest thing in my entire life, psychologically. I actually slipped into a depression. It was so hard to do.
Wow.
But I'm better. I'm making noise. Listen to all these noises.
You are well recovered. You are well recovered for sure.
Thank you for asking, William.
Christian, are you ready to go on a beautiful journey through your memories in life and to share your point of views?
William, let me take a pill if we're going to do that. No, I'm ready. I'm very ready. I'm completely eager to go on.
Can you throw me half of your pill?
Oh, well, yes. Whatever. I don't even know what I got. I will see. Whatever's on the floor, whatever fell out of my mouth last night. No, I'm good. I'm ready for this journey. Journey makes it sound weighty. Let's call it a jaunt, maybe, because I don't think I'm that interesting. So it's a jaunt. Let's go on a jaunt, William.
Welcome to William and the Magic Box. So this is my best friend. Full of random fun questions, okay? I'm just gonna play a song now just for us to move a little bit before the first question. Let's do it.
I'm dancing and there's a delay.
Okay, Christian, just before we start, through the game, if there is a question that you don't want to talk about for some reason, you don't want to answer, always can change, okay? It's all very friendly.
I guarantee that won't happen, but go on.
Right. First question for you is, do you consider yourself to be a spiritual person? How?
I love how you just tacked on how. That's my favorite part of that.
How?
So that question is going to propel me with a degree in theory and a penchant for philosophy to go deep. I'm going to try to avoid going deep because let's not add weight at the top of the show. I'm a performer. Let's do this right. So get the audience on board. And spiritually, that is probably the first signifier of how I would consider myself spiritual. Let's define. Let's go into our definition. So for me, I learned through many a wise person. I'm not that bright. I just keep my brains on speed dial and have people tell me the right thing. And what these brains told me over the years is that spirituality you can consider to be, say, the conscious connection between two things. And you are in a spiritual place when you are consciously connected. For example, you turned on music and I danced. Many would argue that's a spiritual act because we were connecting through music. I was connecting to the music. You were connecting. That's simple. In other words, it can be very non-mystical, very pragmatic, very logical idea of the sensation we experience as humans when in connection. So that's how I operate with this word spiritual. It's very, very practical. It's not mystical. Zero, I'm going to say it again, zero mysticism. It's not anti-mysticism because I'm creepy as hell and I know there's like little ghosties and everything and little widgets and whatnots floating around me. But at the same time, that's a whole other subject. When it comes to spiritual, I see it as a very practical, experiential thing that we all share, we all connect with. Even the deepest hardcore atheist can have a spiritual moment because he's connected to, I don't know, chopping wood. Who knows what it is? So in that respect, I would say, yes, I'm rather spiritual because I like that conscious contact. Footnote, the word conscious must be in there, that to the connection for me, for the moment to be spiritual. Accidental spiritualism, I don't know if I believe in or not, but it doesn't seem like what I'm talking about, where you just aren't aware of the connection. And I emphasize that because when we think about your city, your town, your country, the world, and we talk about how no one's on the same page, and we talk about how no one's agreeing and all these things, that's what I mean. No one's consciously attempting to connect or bond or synchronize or argue or whatever. Those are spiritual movements. They are conscious connections as opposed to just coincidental connections. So that's why I don't know if trees are spiritual. I'm sure there's someone out there who will say they've found the soul of a tree and it can be spiritual because there's consciousness within it. I wouldn't argue because I'm not that smart, but I'm saying all that mystical side, I don't consider when in the flat question of spiritual or not. Can I consciously connect to something? Do I try to consciously connect to something? Do I enjoy it? Do I get something from it? All yes, 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 yes. So yeah, I guess I am spiritual.
Next question. Let's do it.
Yes.
Always between the questions. Next question for you is, what do you think was the most challenging part of being a kid?
I'm going to answer this, and I love how we're just keep on bringing this show down, man. So first off, I wish the most challenging part was that in my childhood, you couldn't play music between questions. It was entirely that. That was the hardest thing. No, of course not. So here's the thing. We're going to take this in a whole other direction. Most people have a really hard time with hearing from someone who is a survivor of sexual abuse, of sexual mistreatment, and I'm a survivor. So I had built in the hardest challenge. I'm open about it. The gory details, 99% of humans will not know. The closest of the close know those gory details. But I do think it's important to represent that this is a real thing and to know that there are people who have experienced and survived it. This is a small healing for me, a small forgiveness for me, and a small love thing to the world. No, we exist. It's hard to think about. It's scary to think about. It's ugly. It's one of those horribles, but we can't just ignore a horrible. That's not how horrible works. We repair, we heal from horrible. And if we don't know what the horrible is, we can't heal from it. So therefore, I choose to identify. So I had a built-in the hardest thing. And I say that openly because a lot of people look at other factors in my upbringing and say, that must have been hard. And I sometimes feel guilty that no, because I had a harder shame secret. So these things that would have been challenges to other people who didn't have maybe a traumatic impact were easier. And I hate saying that because I don't want to discount other people's traumatic experiences. So there's an ironic, it's not a shame or guilt, but an ironic, I get a little my want to be embarrassed kicks up because I don't want to belittle others for their experiences when I say, yeah, it was hard for me, try this one out, And I also know on the spectrum of all things hard, even I didn't have the most horrible version of that horrible. And the rest of my life was maybe absolutely not as bad as some children have to experience. So I do want to throw out there that I don't say it with any grandstanding. I get that I was mostly lucky. Probably you could even, I wouldn't say could argue, I would argue it maybe entitled as a word. So the maybe there is on the word entitled. You can use whatever word you want. Certainly lucky in so many ways that I had resources that other children don't. And so when I look back at my childhood, those were the hardest things for me, is wrestling with that. And that's a very psychological and personal thing. But I think there's a lot of importance to you can tell a story without always, leveling people on the details. I think that some wise person said, you can always level with someone without leveling them. And that's how I try to relate that story. I don't need to level the audience with a scary boogeyman story. I think people are cringing just hearing that. So that's enough to bring the awareness and understand how the story fits into this train wreck of a human being who just won't shut up and wants to play music between all of his questions. No, I'm just kidding.
Before I play the next song between the next question,
playing more music. Here we go.
But before that, looking back, knowing the person you are today, with the knowledge, with the wisdom, everything that's got now, would you if you could erase that part of your life, would you have? If you could do that, would you do it or not? Would keep it? Knowing
that is the classic question. Yeah, that is the classic. Because would we erase the wisdom, the learning, the healing, would we erase everything that came from a disaster? I still don't know that. My sense of dignity wants to say, no, this is my life, and I'm not going to take white privilege and pick and choose what I want my history to be. No. This is my life. This is what I have to own. And the reason I just invoked white privilege is because if I can say that, it becomes a sort of thought idea, like a thought structurer. And then it's like, maybe if I can't pick and choose my experiences, maybe I can pick and choose the experiences I want to look at in other situations. Like if I wish I could ignore something in my life, maybe I could ignore something in a friend's life or in my town's experience or in the history of my state. And I don't think that's a wise mindset to have. So my prudence is what keeps me from saying, no, I wish it could be gone, because I think that would be imprudent. But then on a personal note, as I'm sure you expected, as I'm sure the entire audience expects, the things I've gained, I don't know how else I would have gained them, or if I would have gained them, had I not had to go through the healing, the work, the pain, the struggle, the messiness, and then even the subsequent, messes that get made from trying to heal. Like that, people think that healing is a one-way street, and it's like, no, you make more messes trying to clean up than you do just leaving the mess sometimes, which is certainly a story in my life. So I have to, 51% no is how I'll put it. 51% no, I don't want it erased. But it's only that little, it's just over the needle is just over the line, because there's the other side of like, well, I can also imagine if it didn't happen, I could, who knows, I could be a bajillionaire with 15 yachts and let's not be materialistic. I could have perfect love right now. I could have, who knows, So that's 51. We'll say 51, but with that gigantic explanation of qualification behind it.
I hope the love that it meant to be around you is watching the interview right now. It goes straight away to you. Like, I'm coming to
say that again.
I'm William, just saying, as I say, you said that if you could, this 51%, the other parts, you said you could have the love of your life. I'm just saying, maybe this love of your life is watching the interview right now, and it's gonna come after you.
I don't believe in lottery love. So even if you think you are that, turn off the show right now. Love is not a lottery, my friends. Love, it's kind of like, look, if you want to be a millionaire, like someone says to me, Christian, I told this story.
You're the one who mentioned love, not me.
I know. I was saying that as an example of a non-materialistic thing. And if someone, let me just give you humor me for 90 seconds. So someone says, look, I want to be a millionaire. And you say, okay, well, let's sit down and work on your resume. And they go, I don't want to learn how to do resumes. I want to learn how to be a millionaire. And you say, okay, weirdo, why don't we sit down and look and see what jobs are available? And they say, I don't want to learn how to look up jobs. I want to learn to be a millionaire. And eventually you'd be like, are you crazy? Because you're trying to show them the path to that thing. And they just think it's a lottery. How do I be a millionaire? Tell me the lottery thing. And I think most humans, sorry to offend everyone, perceive love as a lottery. I will quote unquote find, as in no inconvenience to me. I don't have to go out of my way. It will find me. And if I don't find it, it's the world's fault, not mine. Damn it. I don't meet my love of my, oh, shut up. I think that's one of our biggest obstacles to relationship building, is this idea of lottery love, that love is this magical, mystical boing, and you find it. I'm not saying that humans haven't had that experience. Of course they have. We have the testimony. I'm saying that is truly a coincidence. and not actually the standard of how loving relationships probably begin. So yeah, if you're out there thinking, yes, I am your true love, I just found it, I would kindly ask you not to email me. With love, with respect, don't email.
Next one, let's do it. Before the next question, I was checking out a little bit your profile and I saw a phrase there. It says there, don't take your life too seriously, yet never to let your life become a joke. What do you mean by that?
Well, I'm surprised that question was inside the magic box and you don't know what's in the magic box. So I'm
not
questioning the whole operation.
This one is, I mentioned, is before the next question.
I'm joking. It's a sham, folks. Shut it down. He's a con. No, he's not. You're very lovely, and I love this show, and you're delightful, and I hope you get all the viewers. Let HBO Max pick you up for a whole series. Because that's what the kids are listening to. They're watching these days, right? I'm hip with the youth. That's what I mean by don't take life too seriously. Laughter is a massive virtue. It's not a preference. It's not a good thing. It's a virtue in my life. I actually will avoid people who lack silliness, not just lack sense of humor, but lack silliness, because I'll go deeper on that in a minute, but because laughter is a virtue. So if I find myself unable to locate the humor of something, even if it's horrible, then I'm setting myself up for more hurt because I won't back up. I need to create. In other words, laughter is space plus time plus distance. Like it's whatever that is. It's distance plus time equals laughter. Here's the example. You're walking down the street. There's a lovely, normal woman beside you, and you both step up the curb, and she face plants right she trips and falls off that curb, and you're right in front of you, and your first reaction is, oh my God, ma'am, are you okay? Now, let's move you 2 blocks back. And you're sitting there and you look down the street and you see this woman fall and you're just like, you start giggling because you're far away. Now, and everyone's smiling right now saying, yeah, I kind of do, and it's far away. But now, guess what? That happened in the past, and you're laughing even harder because it's now in the past and it's far away. So you see, our humor is about distance. Emotionally, psychologically, cognitively, I can't really think through something, whether it's a problem, whether it's a tragedy, if I'm right up pressed against it. I'm too reactive. My emotions are engaged with it. And that's important in the moment. But to constantly be there, to not, after that emotional thing, to not be able to step back. You know, you pick up the woman and she's just embarrassed and you're like, okay. And then 20 minutes later, you're giggling because she was okay and you gave yourself space, as opposed to, now I'm going to walk you home. Now I'm going to walk you up your stairs and make sure. And it's so serious, you know, and she's fine. And obviously not all bad things that happen are like that, but that is an example of what I'm talking about. But not to make your life a joke that's the second half of it, is that if we only stay away, now we're setting ourselves up for something more dangerous. So if I dodge everything with a joke, if I dodge everything with humor, and that is what people are doing a lot of the times, and I'm sure people have heard me on this interview dodging with humor, and I'll own it, that can be deeply dysfunctional. Now, I'm on a podcast. Obviously, I'm going to be doing a lot of dodge and weave because this isn't like, we're not sitting quietly by a fireside discussing life. So I'm going to own my dodges and say that's what this moment's about, a little bit of distance to describe the moment. And that distance allows jokes. So the virtue of laughter is what has healed me. The virtue of laughter is what has healed my ancestors, my family. This is one of the most important things. My father, who passed away about a decade ago, we had jokes up onto the deathbed. He's making jokes about pancreatic cancer, not all the time. And it was very serious. It was a very serious effort to fight the disease. There was zero humor in that. It wasn't a joke at all, but we laughed. And we laughed a lot. And he would make the doctors and nurses laugh. And even when I was in surgery, I'm going under, and I had the anesthesiologist actually telling me to stop because he was giggling so much. And I'm like, what? Because I was fine. Everything was fine, but I just had him on the ropes. He was laughing. And I'm like, got the mask on. He's like, you know, okay, give me the count of 1 to 10. And I lean my head over and I go, I'd say you're a 7. Like, here we are at the moment of surgery. And I'm like, no, let's have some fun. Let's make a laugh. Because I know I was in good hands. I'm not worried about that. And he's like, okay, but now do it real. Because he was giggling. You know, it's not all serious. It's not all serious, you know, but it wasn't a joke. It was like, you know, let's get the surgery done. So I can keep going on these examples, but like silliness is such a huge thing. And that's what I was referencing earlier. And I'll finish up with this. If you don't play, you don't learn. Knowing will shut down your ability to connect with your world. If you know things, you're not curious. If you know things, you don't ask. If you know things, you don't explore, you don't learn, you don't grow. You literally will stop growing without curiosity. Play isn't something that ends in childhood. It's like when you're messing around with some fish to see how you can fry it, or when you're playing around with some wood to see if you can make a dress. I don't know what happens with carpentry, even though I come from a line of carpenters, I have no idea. But like, or like when an artist is playing around, or even when like an accountant is playing around with the numbers to see if maybe I did that play, that curiosity is how we grow. Play is a close cousin of humor, obviously. And so it's usually the barometer about whether or not someone's growing and moving, someone's open and caring, someone's spiritual or not, is just that ability to laugh and be silly. And it's like, if you're always pressed up against something and always serious, you're not playing enough because you know you have to be there. And that knowing will stop you so much. I'm not saying don't know anything. Don't be like me who knows nothing, but like, except that fact. That's the only fact I know. Oh my God, I just hit a paradox. We're going to stop the show for 20 minutes. No, just kidding. But you know, don't always be knowing. And in order to back up and stop knowing so much, a little humor goes a long way. Because that'll tell you whether or not you're too close to something. And sometimes humor too quick. You know, it'll feel weird. That's okay, your life's not a joke. Like, get back against it. And so that's why that saying means it's like, you're always going to be moving between those up close and far away things, next to the woman or 2 blocks away. You're always going to be moving in that sort of spectrum. It's never the same place. Stay curious and stay mindful, but always keep moving, because the humor will come back and you'll move on.
I'm going to share something with you. Just came to my mind. You're saying that about humor. My first boyfriend, once he called me up and he said, William, come here. I said, what's happening? What's wrong? And he said, William, you're not 12 years old anymore, William. You're already 24 at the time. I was like, oh my God, why? And he was going on and on and on. Saying that, after a few years, this back in Portugal, when I was living before moving to the UK, my second boyfriend one day, English guy, come up to me, said, William, come here, just need to talk to you for a minute. And he started saying the same sentence as my first boyfriend. And when he started saying the same sentence, I was laughing already. He was like, you see, you don't take things seriously. But I said, I'm sorry, but you just said the same thing as my first boyfriend, just a different language, because my first one said in Portuguese, you are saying English now. Right. By the way, it just made me remember that. Next.
Notice how that message, that contradictory message always gets, you know, delivered by people who speak languages of the oppressor. Sorry, just kidding. I had to go there.
You made me think for a minute. I was like, oh my God, I got so serious now, trying to understand what's going on. Right. Anyway, you got me now. Next question is, what is the nicest thing a family member has ever done for you?
Okay, I'm going to say this. If anyone has a nicest, like a singular Hyperion point, go to therapy, because we shouldn't be ranking that crap. So like it's not here's a number 1. So I'm going to push back on the question just a little bit to say, I will not give you my nicest. What I will say is I will give you something I recall right now. How about that? Like something that stands out, a Hyperion nice moment. But I really want to caution everyone against those kinds of rankings, because my God, like, no people, no, don't do that. Once you do that, you start comparing other parts of life to that moment, and then everything goes bad. So have many, like people say, what's your favorite color? I'm like, well, what day is it? Have many favorites, you know? What's your favorite flavor? I go, what day is it? I don't know. What's my mood? You know, what's your, like trying to find your favorite song. You'll never do it, you know, many favorites. And this memory, I often, when people ask, I have this one locked so I can just bring it out, because it really is a moment. My brother, 2 years older than me, was living in the Netherlands for a number of years for work. And so, and this is, we moved there before the pandemic. Unfortunately, the last 2 years were the pandemic, so we were all very angry that he left that job because we couldn't vacation in Europe. And how dare he not have his job around our leisure, right? It's shameful. I'm sure my entire audience agrees, right?
Of course.
Of course. Like, how are we going to take vacations if you're not there to like house us and feed us? How dare you? So anyway, before the pandemic, we went and it's wonderful having a home in another place because you can really explore at a different rate. And I am an explorer. And I don't know why. I think it's my love of lore and my love of stories and my love of ideas that I've always been fascinated to a weird degree with castles and mythic lore and that sort of Northern European, stuff. Don't get me wrong. I am right now on a deep dive on North American lore, and I've done some, other lore deep dives. I love lore in all cultures, but there's always been, I think it's from a childhood thing, like dragons and castles has always been a touchstone for me. Let's not analyze it too much, just know it's there. And so I'm in Europe and I'm like, oh, but screw this. I'm in the Netherlands, which is really like land of the most anticlimactic castles. You got castles all over Europe, and you're in Netherlands, it's like womp womp, it's like, these are like the ones, the also ran castles. So I said, okay, sense of humor about it. I'm going to do a tour of crappy castles. And that's my tour. I'm not going to see the grand ones that I want to see. So I'll go look at the crappy castles around the Netherlands that all sank. This is how it is. Name a castle war in the Netherlands. You're going to be pressed. These were just show castles. And I mean, there's always battles, but you get what I'm saying. And so I've always wanted to see a real castle. Well, my brother, we go over to Belgium, I think, and is it in Bruges? It might be, no?
Bruges, yep, I've been there.
It's either Bruges or Ghent. It could be Ghent. And I love Ghent. Ghent is like one of my number one cities on the whole planet. Everyone go to Ghent now. Full stop. Anyway. But I think it's either Ghent or, it was probably Ghent actually. And so, yes, it was Ghent. And there's a castle there that's but it's a real one. Now I'd seen duds the whole week and here I am, and this is a real one. And they let you have the run of the place and you can do every which way. It's just well maintained, well done castle, like over 1,000 years old, has great stories. And so I'm like flipping out. Now there's a little recorded tour that you put on your, and you walk through. And I'm like listening, but I'm stopping. And I'm inspecting every brick. I'm sticking my head up chimneys at this point. I'm, touching the stained glass. I'm like just, emotionally overwhelmed. Finally, here I am in a real castle. And, my brother and sister-in-law and my nephew, they start wandering off ahead of me. And they're like, okay, we're just going to. So about, an hour and a half goes by. I'm easily no more than a third through this thing. I just will not. Slowest moving. I'm looking at everything. I don't want to forget a detail. So moved. This is like deep inside of me. And I'm in the weapons room and I'm just feeling the shape of the bricks, imagining the fingerprints of others and, royals and servants and, this sword and that sword. And did this kill? And was this just for show? And was this warm? Was it cold? Who sat here? And through the banquet hall attached to the weapons room, my brother is coming and he stops right in the door and he gazes at me in this room with my hand on a brick, flooded with tears coming down my face, just completely lost in the moment of beauty and joy to finally be in a place that was resonating with every little mythic thing within me, pouring out of me, tears of joy and amazement. And he paused and he said the exact thing any brother should say. Meet us at St. Michael's, and just turned and walked away. In other words, he wasn't going to stop the moment and say, we have to get over to the next thing. He just said, go, find us later. Like, don't worry. And that was one of the kindest things he could have, the courtesy and kindness of that. I still remember, and of my memories of that castle, and trust me, the details are imprinted in this brain. I could walk it blind at this point, even though it was several years ago. That moment is still one of the most vivid moments of a family member. And I know there were many bigger and better than that in my life, but that's a recent one that really describes a familial good that could have happened, that he did not interrupt my joy, but rather said, you finish your joy before moving on to the next one. unfortunately, the story goes on to a minor frustrational. I screwed myself, but that's a whole other tale. I can tell you about that one, but that's going to make the story too long. But that was the kindness.
That's beautiful, beautiful. And he lives in Boston now, Christian.
He came home. Yeah, he came back. So he lives in a small town outside of Boston where we grew up, actually, like in literally the original neighborhood. I'm going to speak for him. This is unfair, but what I loved is seeing this like dyed-in-the-wool suburbanite. I mean, I have issues with car dependence that run deep. I despise car dependence. So suburbs and the way they're zoned and built in America really anger me because of how they create dependence on the car. This isn't anti-car. This is anti-car dependence and anti-subsidizing the car and gas industry at the behest of like, you know, citizens losing out. This drives me nuts. That being said, dyed-in-the-wool suburbanite lives in a city in Europe, one of the most bikeable, walkable places. He comes home and there was a change. And he now understands the deficits in the design of his own home in a way that is beautiful, because it's not, he realized, oh, it's not anti-car. It's not some weird agenda. It's about, this is better for the people living. Like, it makes life livable. And seeing that transition of him and seeing his frustration with driving, you know, to get a gallon of milk, and how he realized that's silly, that he has to drive, it was a wonderful transition. So that's a side story. Not the good story I wanted to tell about George and the Dragon and the Raphael painting that was so beautiful, but it's a good story anyway.
For sure. Next one. Let's do it.
Next one. Oh, here we go.
Next question
Okay.
is, which question you'd like to be asked?
Like in general?
Yeah.
By you or by anybody?
By me right now.
By you right now. Okay, which question would you like to be asked? Will you come back? That would be the number one right now. Will you come back on the show? Yeah, that would, number one question you asked. I know you just do one person at a time, but that would be number two question would be like, would you be a regular? Yeah, you know, like, so I mean, these are the questions in this specific moment I would like to be asked. That would be number one, and that's because I don't know if you notice, I'm enjoying this. So.
Will you come back for the next season of Really the Magic Box, for the next 3-1? Actually, would you come back for a 1-to-1 face-to-face? That's one of my projects in the future.
Yes. Yeah. Anything. Yes. Like literally, if it is a job of talking, yes. Like it's almost nothing. Literally almost nothing I won't do if it's about a conversation or talking. So
amazing. Done. Deal. It's recording now. Deal.
What is? Oh, it's recording. Oh yeah. So it's official. So listeners of the Magic Box, if you don't see me as a regular installment, you know, unsubscribe. No, don't unsubscribe. Never unsubscribe. Never do that.
I'll come to Boston. Don't worry.
Oh, yay!
Next
I'll
one.
give you a tour. I will do like a tour.
Absolutely, a proper one. I just spent 3 days when I went there, actually. I got to see a bit of the city, but not like from someone who lives there. So I'm sure I would see it in a different way, for sure. Yeah.
You need to see Bostonians, and this is probably Massachusettsians as well. To truly be a Bostonian, you have to be utterly self-loathing. So our perspective on the city will be always way better than what you get from a tour guide, which, like, get rid of the loathing part and just make it nice and here. And it's like, no. Here comes the heat. You got to have the heat to live here.
Next question. Before the next question, the question that's not in my box, let me clarify that before you make a thing.
How people don't constantly make innuendo on this show is baffling, because I've had 15 as we've gone on. Go on.
What's the best part of being a storyteller, and what's the most challenging part?
I'm trying not to cry, because one of the most enjoyable parts is I'm just sitting here thinking, it's like asking a bird why. What's the most enjoyable part about flying, or a fish? What's the most enjoyable part about swimming? It's like, I can't put a finger on it, because it's like, that's all. Like, that's what I do. So So that is joy in my mind, but it's like I can't describe it to people because it's utterly naturalistic. It's the best part is that when I'm within it, time stops, problem stops, everything is, this is as it should. Even if I'm talking about problems, everything stops and comes into that. Like what am I relating? Is the story a theory? Is the story an idea? Is the story a narrative once upon a time? Is the story an anecdote? Is the story a math problem? It's just like in that moment, I'm like, that's this creature, and this creature is alive. So I'll put it that way, the aliveness of it, the fact that that's, I guess the word that the spiritualists would say, oh, your vitality. Yeah, so that's the vital moment, I guess, how vital it is for me. That's the best. Now the worst, and this is what I was gonna say, like that's what made me pause for a second before I almost got emotional. Joy emotional was there's so many bad things that I'm like, why is he asking me the worst? It's like, here's one. No one thinks it's real. Everyone's like, oh, a storyteller. Oh, guess he has a creative writing degree. You know, it's like, no. Like they're like, oh, they think it's like a cop out, or they think it's like, you know, this consumerist world. Oh, that's not a paying job. It's like, because everyone identifies by their career, or they think it's like, oh, you're a flake, or oh yeah, what are you? Like, it's just like, you know. And so you have to explain that storytelling is highly applicable. Here's I'm coming back. I'm coming in hot now. Here's the thing I want you to think about. Okay, job people. I hit up someone hard like this just the other day. I go, look, think of your job, that you're so very important job that you do and how you live. Now we have, you know, all hell breaks loose, Armageddon, complete societal breakdown, and now we're tribal. How are you surviving? And I tell people this, you know what, lawyers, you're not going to be invited into the tribe because where's your caribou carcass? Meanwhile, me, storyteller, oh hell yeah, I'm getting a meal. I'm like right up against like the history, the law, like everything. Like every freaking tribe needs the motherfucking storyteller. Excuse my French, all right? You know, try to tell Lord of the Rings without Gandalf. Nice try, you know. So I'm like set. So I say, if you don't think a storyteller is real, let's get the Armageddon going and see what the frick happens. That's my sort of joke about it, is that like a lot of the times the essentiality of the storytelling art, of the oratory art, is belittled in our culture. But let me throw it this way: which art do you think is being practiced when you get completely enraged and furious with the news? Which art is being used? It's oratory. Or when you get mad at your elected officials and whatnot, which art do you think they're using to get you riled up? Or, you know, let's just say you're learning something from a teacher. Which of those crafts? You know, oratory is common and it can be elevated into something, but nonetheless it's common. So when I say my art is oratory, I'm trying to craft it. I'm actually taking the thing and now I'm moving it into another space, whether it's visual, whether it's personal, whether it's verbal, and I love the verbal, poetic, whatever. But we tend to undermine it, and then we're completely, utterly dependent on it. So that's one of the worst things, is when people poo-poo it. Oh, a storyteller, that's cute. Thanks, whatever, dude. We'll see you at the tribal bonfire, and who gets the steak and who doesn't. But you know, it's one of these things where, you know, let's be real, and it's one of these things also where when I say I'm a storyteller, one of the worst things is that I know there is a fragility, because while we can record things and while we can edit things, and I create stable media, you know, visual, and everyone creates stable media. One of the worst things is that so much of it disappears, and it relies on us to hold it, and it relies on us to recall it. And so things mutate. And so I've often been dazzled with cultures that have remarkable story passing or culture passing things. Queer culture, I'm going to take it there. Here we go, guys. So I'm done with the worst, but I need to follow it with this one note. Queer culture doesn't have a lot of offspring in order to transact itself to the next generation. So queer culture must be materialistic. Not, oh, it's coincidentally materialistic. It's urgently, dependently materialistic, because it's the objects that transact culture to the next generation. Now, objects are sometimes things like stories. It's things like legislature, which is a story of law. It's things like rights and speeches and moments. And that can also be materialistic things like clothes and outfits and entertainment. A space like a bar or a club or something is an object. And so storytelling is very, very, very important for queer transaction because we don't get offspring. So I would argue that storytelling is important for any intergenerational cultural transaction, but has a particular urgency among the queer cultural transaction because we don't get babies. But the way we intergenerationally transact is through objects and storytelling and narrative. And whether it's a object story like say ballroom dance, like the ballroom performance, that's technically a story, even though it's not with words, some words, or whether it's a story like a literal, like let's remember Harvey Milk or something. You know, it's like these Matthew Shepard, you know, this is a story now, and it's an important story and an urgent story, and that's how we transact. It's very materialistic, but in a way that isn't like consumerism. Now, of course, gay pop culture has turned to consumerism, so F you white guys, but we'll go into that topic later. But for now, that's one of the things, is that I get angry when people undermine the idea of storytelling, because then when you point to where it's urgent, oh God, don't you dare look down on me for identifying that way. Snap, 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 you know?
Thanks for clarifying that. Amazing. Next question for you is, right, tough question now. If someone gave you an envelope with your death date inside of it, would you open it or not?
Would I open it? I love morbidity. I'm constantly bringing up death and fatalities. So there's a part of me that would be like, no, because then I lose all the wonder of like the potentiality of death. But I won't. But that's another 51%, because as I think about it, there is a little bit of like, if I know the deadline, I work harder. I'm just that's my nature. I work best under deadline. So if I have a deadline, then it's kind of like I don't need to worry about those stuff. I don't need to worry about that stuff. I can just worry about this. Let's go. And as I'm talking about it, maybe the 51% is yes. Maybe I'm actually leaning toward, yeah, let's find the deadline and go. You know what? I'm not a bon vivant. I would want to know the date. You know, it's not about, it's if that's possible. Okay. Now here's the other thing. If someone knew that and put that in an envelope, I'd go into witness protection, because guess how that date got there?
Of course.
Negating the whole situation. But anyway, go on.
Right, I have 3 questions left for you. Let's do it.
I love it.
Before the next one,
yes.
The name of, when I saw Scorpio Creative in your profile, Scorpio means because your star sign is Scorpio, or was just a matter?
So when I went independent, design and branding, I choked. There was a choke. And I happened to be, I'm always up to ask anybody. It's like whatever I'm researching now, every conversation becomes about whatever that is. So whatever book I'm reading, there it is. And, you know, God forbid, like sometimes it's the topics. And so I happened to be doing, okay, let's 50 years here, read a lot of crap. And so I was on this whole like, well, what's the deal with astrology kick? And then I had to suddenly like quickly find an identity, and I didn't want to be a design, like it's not a designer. And I also didn't want to imply that my range was limited to a certain set of skills. So I knew I'm like, okay, creative. It's got to say creative, like creative services of all kinds. People still don't believe that. Here's my plug for Scorpio Creative, of all kinds. Now, when you say, oh, does that include? All should imply that. All the time, people are like, okay, all kinds, huh? Well, do you do website? What does all mean? You idiots. No, none of my clients are idiots. But the point is like, I was looking for what word to pair with it, and I'm just like, crap, my sun sign is Scorpio. That's gonna be with me forever. I also didn't want to put my name on it. I came from where I was apprenticed in a firm that had the guy's name, and a lot of agencies have the name of the founder. And I knew that I didn't want this thing that would be overly identified with me as a human being, or that I would be over identified with. So I wanted to divorce my identity, my public identity, from that business, while at the same time having some sort of thumbprint on it of me. And I'm like, well, my astrology sign doesn't freaking matter. So I just tacked that thing on there, and there's Scorpio creative, you know, design and branding and creative services of all sorts. And
all sorts.
All sorts. People, it's all of it. People are like, but can you do all of it? If I can't do it, we bring in the troops. You know, we got this, guys.
And which day is your birthday?
The most important day, of course. No, November 2nd. November 2nd, 1971. And 11/2, if you ever, dear listeners, meet another November 2nd Scorpio, they will join me that, yes, this is the most important day. Why do people argue this? You know, Day of the Dead, right? You know, the damn Christians tried to turn it to All Souls. Womp womp, ain't gonna do it. Known as the Day of Transformation. This is the moment, people. This is the shift of it all. It's got all kinds of like ancient mystical crap to it. Let's be real, it's the most important day, right? So yeah, that's my birthday.
On November 17th.
Oh, so a late Scorpio. You guys are the flimsy ones. Like, you feel free, if you know anything about astrology, feel free to argue with a late Scorpio, because eventually they'll give up and they'll lean Sag. It's just how it always works.
If you say that, I believe you. Next question is, what bores you?
Oh my God, that question. No, so here's the thing. Boredom is not a bad thing unto itself. I don't like shun boredom, but it's okay. Let's say you're looking at a profile online. Let's say you're looking at someone, and it does not. I'm not talking like a dating site. It could be a dating site, but any profile, and under their description of themselves, loves to travel. That is not a personality, you know. Or how about this? They write body hair, gym, chilling, beer. Those aren't personalities. You're so boring. Like, if you need external things to describe how cool you are, then clearly this thing in the middle of all those things is freaking boring. Because why do you need, like, you know, craft scotch? And go! You're so boring. You know, so I guess you could say materialism, like that's painfully boring to me. Beautiful people, hot. I'll say beautiful, hot people. Oh my God. Beautiful and rich people are so painfully boring. I mean, there's a theory that if you have sort of like generically good looks growing up, and everyone thinks you're good looking, you are less pressured to evolve your personality. And then you just survive that way. And so what ends up happening is you're not that interesting. And that's why oftentimes good-looking people, when they describe how cool they are, they point to all the things around them. I'm the owner of this business. I have that. I'm in real estate or whatever thing. And you're like, wow, you're painfully boring, aren't you? You sad sod. I mean, gorgeous, beautiful, sad sod, but you are sad. And so, or like, I'm a mom. That's not a personality. You know what I mean? I get so bored with these people. And it's like, you know, who are you? What are you? I'm not saying it has to be a deep answer. Be like, I like to laugh. Okay, that's more of a personality than, you know, into beards. You know what I mean? It's like that you I can't summarize your personality based on likes BMWs. You know, that's not going to tell me anything. Well, maybe that'll tell me you're a sociopath. But other than that, I can't really glean anything. And so there's this, that's what bores me, is like this repetitive, monotonous, consumerist, materialistic way of describing yourself. Look, if you want to be a consumerist and materialist, power to you, man, rock on. But don't, you know, by telling you that's who you are. You know, like, that is so boring. You know, it's just like, oh my God, where is this conversation gonna go? Like, literally, where is this gonna go? You're talking about your stuff. What am I gonna, like, you know, like, all right, so I had this funny night where this dude had all kinds of stuff. I mean, he was like richer than God, all kinds of stuff. He will never listen to this podcast. I'm sure he's rich enough to never even know what a podcast is. And he was flexing all of his stuff, and he was taking me around, and I'm being polite, like, oh, like, you know, I was just being polite, but I was like ready to get out of there. And I'm telling you, just so folks know, he had possessions that are highly coveted, things that are like rare, like there, to where there is a small degree of like, well, wow. But it was the fact that it was like, now look at this and now look at that, and with the flexing and the aren't you impressedness of it. Ugh, God, boring. So can I take it one more step? Because so I've been involved with bodybuilding and strength competitively as a spiritual notion for a long time, and I'm not going to go into the whole spiritual side of that. No one ever gets it. But and how it ended up here. But the irony, and like, social media has really done a great job in those departments. I applaud it, because now it shows how like the worst, and I'm like, great, we have literally a pile of the worst examples of this. Perfect like avoidance lesson. And you know, these guys who really lean on their aesthetic as a way of trying to connect or communicate or build status or whatever thing. People say, "Yeah, but Christian, what about, I see on your profile, you got a little skin there, Christian." Guys, here's the deal. I do stuff. I need algorithms. I need bumps. So yeah, if I got, you know, I'll flash a nip if I get a like. I mean, that's fine, because I'm just worried about the traffic. This is and trust me, everyone says, if you did a percentage, someone actually did, and they're like, yeah, it is only around like 20-30%. I'm like, exactly. It's a system, guys. Everyone's like, I thought it was 50-50. And then they start looking like, I guess it's not. I'm like, yeah, it's like, but I know what tweaks the system. And that's Instagram is a marketing platform that people imagine is social. It's not social. It's a marketing platform. You know, I can talk inside of a McDonald's and say, that doesn't make me say McDonald's is a social meeting house. No. And so the thing is, there's a lot of guys who then buy it, and a lot of women who buy it. And I'm not even talking about physically, let's say cars, or, you know, cutesy coffee shops or whatever thing. And in their mind, I really believe of the creators, even though they want that money or they want that boost, or they really do think that they're being known in a way that now people know. And I'll go back to the bodybuilding thing, where let's take it off social media and say how boring these bodybuilders are. Like, these strength lifters, like, I'm surprised more people don't get into it. And I'm like, you're painfully boring, because all you are is that. Like, where's your story of like why you like it, or why it's interesting, or why it's important to someone else? Like, where are those stories? I don't hear those stories. I would always try to tell those stories so people could understand why the hell, you know, I'm doing this smelly, stinky, dumbass thing. But that's just one example among many that, you know, we're so boring, and that bores me. Like, people identifying by these external things and then expecting me to buy it, that last part, that's what makes it boring. If you're strongly identified in a thing, like I said, power to you, but it's the way you try to transact. And why is it boring? Here it comes. Get ready, William. Full circle. Are you ready? Why is it boring? Because it prevents a spiritual connection. Because now you're putting something between you and I and expecting me to connect to it, as opposed to connecting to you. So I can only connect with like a cup for so long. I can only connect with, you know, a shoe for so long. You know, maybe some people are really into shoes. I mentioned that innuendo thing earlier. I don't know. But the principle, you understand that if you're going to put an object between you and I, or an idea between you and I, and say connect to that, how can I connect to you? That's boring, man.
I love that.
So boring.
Oh, I love saying that. How did they end up this meeting with this guy showing you off there?
Don't think of that wrong. He's straight as an arrow. Because you can tell by how I told the story, I was holding some details back, and that's intentional. Let's just say it was someone through business connections, and I ended up in this space because it was kind of like a, you know, business convo, and then it turned casual, and here comes the tour. You know what I mean? Let's see.
2 questions left. Let's do it.
I wing it. Let's go. I love to dance. I don't dance well, but I love to dance.
Next question for you is, what is your morning ritual?
Panic. No. I collapse into a puddle and worry about the fate of the world and then have tea. No, no, for real though. When I adopt a ritual, I'm very good at it, but it's hard for me to adapt rituals. So that's been a lifelong struggle for me. That's why I laughed. I'm like, oh, he had to go there. So that's kind of like you're digging up a personal. People like, Christian, that's personal. After all this, that's the personal one. I'm a Scorpio. I'm territorial. Get out of my morning. No, but like, right. So what it is that there is some ritual. And one of the first things I do every morning for many, many years is I write, literally just whip out the journal and just go. Now, usually, like, on my good days, it's within like 20 minutes of waking up, capture a couple dreams, right? Like, again, write down all my panic. But, you know, sometimes, like, that's what I'm like, because this morning I'm like, I dawdled my off. And it was like 4 hours later that I got into the book. But it stands as the ritual. Like, it's almost like the day hasn't begun until I got that out of the way. So the gap that's how you know around and not doing anything in the morning, because I didn't hit the journal yet. So clearly I'm just jerking around and there's no ritual here. Other than that, after the journal, I'm usually so panicked that I go running over to my to-do list and start emailing and texting everyone frantically because I know someone needs something from me. So yeah, it's a very small ritual, but let's just say it's the start of day ritual. And if I do it well, it's in the morning.
Are you more a day or a night person, Christian?
Here's how I describe it. I love the crack of dawn. I love morning. I even love like the hours before the sun comes up. Oh my God, if I could spend more time there. And I mean that sincerely, because this motherfucker can't get up that early. So there's a real flaw, because I'm like a day into night person. Like accidentally, I could be going on 2 hours of sleep. 11 p.m. hits and it's like, let's go jogging. I don't jog. I never jog. That was an example. But like I get active, you know? And there's something in the night that I'm true vampire. I go full vampire. So it's almost like getting into the damn bed is my only savior. On the upside, I love to sleep. I could be like an Olympic sleeper if that was an event. Love to sleep. Oh my God. People are like, yeah, but you know, you could waste up to a third of your life. I said, well, you know what? Then I hear the problem there. Wasting a third of your life in bed. I hear that problem. That's terrible. I'm going to try to make a half. Let's improve those odds, man. I would love to sleep half my life away. That'd be great. I've never heard a cat complain. And, you know, so my thing is like, because of that, if I don't get to bed early, I will go like sleeping. I will go. I have to have a hard deadline that wakes me out of that. Like, then I get up for the alarm. But if there's not some hard obligation, I'm going to get another hour, another 2 hours, another 5 hours. You know, sleep is heaven to me. And because I live outside of the 9 to 5 schedule, I can bend, you know, the schedule a little bit. And I gladly do. You know, what you waste in your car commuting or your train commuting, I'm in bed, man. And I'm like, I'm not saying that as a flex. I'm saying like, that's the requirement of my job, to be rested. But I love morning. Like, that's the thing, is like at night, I go out at night, I'm like, meh. Oh, a star, yay, a moon. I think because I'm always up at night. So I'm like, oh, whatever. So, but when I'm up in the morning, I am like, oh, I love the morning. I'm ecstatic when I can get up. So my dream, like I love jet lag, because then you accidentally get up early. I'm like, oh, I'm up in the morning. And you're so amped for your day. So like, it's, yeah, like I would say I'm a morning person / day person, but a vampire, like a frustrating vampire. I love daylight. I love being outside. I love heat. I love sun, but I can't get out of the damn bed.
Amazing. Christian, ready for the last one?
I would hope so. After this.
Of course. Let's do it. Look at you.
I'm just doing stuff. I don't know what's happening.
Before the last question, as you mentioned in the beginning of the interview about your dad, when you think of him, what's the best memory that comes to your mind, that if you can share?
You said best. What are memories that come to mind with my dad? So I hate to start with this one, but this is the first thing that popped into my mind. So I'll go free association. Believe it or not, this was not a free association interview. I got so much locked and loaded. I can talk on anything. So my dad, I always joke, I am not religious. I'm not aligned with a religion. I would call myself a cultural Catholic, because I think if you get raised Catholic, it's like, Jewish, even though, Catholic isn't a race, but it's similar to that idea of like a cultural Jew who doesn't necessarily practice, but there's certain cultural things that get transacted into the upbringing of, and I have those things transacted into me, and everyone who was raised Catholic, whether they're falling on, is going, oh yeah, oh he's right, so I call myself a cultural Catholic by upbringing, but not by lifestyle at all. And the reason I'm comfortable saying that is because the first thing that came to mind is that my dad, I always say, was a good Catholic. And I mean good in terms of he did all the rituals and got the 5 sacraments and did the whole business. That too, yes, he did all of those too. But his moral center was what is supposed to happen if you're Catholic. Now, he had his picadillos and people he hated and things he hated and awful opinions from time to time, like horrible opinions. But the way he would behave and operate would be according to a generosity, a compassion, and an openness, like a sense of like there's an obligation to care kind of attitude. That you don't come at someone who's different. You don't come at someone who is beleaguered. You don't undermine the undermined. You do not do that. You start with love, in other words. Start from love, and then you can complain the frick about it. I don't care. Then that's what I mean. So his example, his moral example, was not necessarily preaching Catholicism or even preaching Christianity, but I could see it was shaped by an ideology that was Catholic. And I always say, yeah, he was one of the best Catholics I ever knew, which is where I don't have like a typical harboring fevered hatred of the Catholic Church that I want to go on record as saying is utterly and 100% absolutely justified by all who hold it. I support you in that, deeply support you. But what I'm saying is I don't carry it because my Catholic experience was actually predicated on like love thy neighbor energy, like neo-hippie energy. My father was no hippie, like square as they get, paper pusher. He won't no hippie. But like that was the idea behind the thing, is that love first. And a love first message is good no matter how it got there. Well, I don't know, maybe end doesn't justify the means when you talk about Christianity or any of the religions, You're all bloody. I know it's easy to pick on the Christians, and we should, but y'all got it, guys. All you folks out there. God bless. Literal. But like, but so the thing is that that's the thing that comes to my mind. But the other thing with my father is, okay, his flaws are so precious to me, are deeply precious to me. Because that old phrase, sins of the father, so to speak, like I feel like I honor my heritage, my ancestors, and my father when whether it's my grandfather or my grandmothers or whoever, when I look at what I believe didn't work or what I saw didn't work, and when I catch that in my life, that needs to be confronted, not ignored, not rushed. Oh, no, not like that. But like, okay, all right, well, here it is. I was raised by this. Here it is. So ironically, while those are often, less savory and less romantic ideas, they're pretty vivid when I think of my father. And again, by flaws, I'm not saying like even flaws that he did that beleaguered my life, those too, but it's more like in his character, in his person, like those kinds of, like we all have those, and like I look at those and they inform me. And then the final thing is he gave me my virtue and all of our family's virtue for humor, my mom as well, but like he was vehement on laughter. It was, I would even argue, without him ever saying it, non-silly people were rejected. Like, maybe not hard rejected, but they weren't long in our house. Happy people, joyful people, funny people were welcome in this house. And because they carried pain. And if you can't carry your pain, well, you figure it out, find the handle. So I think that virtue, the example of humor, the example of don't take life seriously, but don't make your life a joke. He at least lived that, and I would say very much lived that. So that's, if you want the romantic thing, I would say that came from Philip John Matyi.
Amazing. Last question for you is, what 3 things do you want to be remembered for?
Oh, well, we're gonna have to go another hour. Sorry, folks. Oh, clock on the wall says Christian's gonna write another essay. No, so I don't care. The bottom line is I do not care. Because if you're saying I'm going to be remembered for something, what do I want it to be? You had me at going to be remembered. But I don't, and I say that not because I personally want to be remembered, but I want to nudge something. I think that's all a human can ask. I want to nudge something. And if I nudge something big, great. And what I mean by nudge something is that every parent nudges the future a little. And, that's a very legacy driven idea. Artists nudge the future. I'm beleaguered to say this, but many businesses nudge the future. Okay, that was painful coming out of my mouth. And that's, in other words, sometimes they don't nudge it for good. They nudge it in a way that hampers other human beings. Let me real quickly back that up with a quick moral foundation of, for me, good, on the spectrum of good to evil, good is movement, good is active, good is growth, change, progress. Good is movement, is what I say. Bad, evil, I'll go there. Evil is stopped, halted, finite, finished, bad. So when you know something too much, it becomes evil. Don't believe me? Reference that, Christian church thing I was just talking about. Knowing too much stops things, and stopping something can become an evil. And so that's my spectrum of good and evil. Good is movement and growth. Bad is stopped and we'll say prevented. Let's not say stop. Let's say prevention. And that's the spectrum I operate on. In fact, I told someone, everyone's like, your politics are all over the map sometimes. And I'm like, no, it's very simple. Anything that allows inclusion, that's my politics. Done. Full stop. Inclusivity. And that explains my ecology. That explains my tax ideas. That explains my war ideas. Look, war is intensely separatist, obviously. So I'm anti-frickin' war. How hard is that? It doesn't include people, Bans on, we must ban this. There you're literally saying lack of inclusion. So I'm anti whatever it is, tack whatever it is on there. We should be ashamed of Roe v. Wade, but then again, it's also an inclusion incident, isn't it? Well, were you exercising your inclusion, or did you do an evil by saying someone else will take care of it? Which I consider an evil because you're, stopping involvement, you're preventing involvement, these kinds of things. So it's a very simple political overarch. And that's my good and evil. So then coming back to the original question of being remembered for, I want to nudge toward good. You see what I'm saying? I want to nudge toward inclusion. If this name, if this character is not invoked, I don't care, I don't think. If the seed grows, even if it's only a couple generations and then dies, but at least the couple generation, then that would be what I would hope, if there's a hope at all. Now remember, we go back to that chaos thing at the beginning. Who knows, right? Anything could happen, right? But that would be what it would be about. So what do I remember for? I don't know. Now, if you want to go into what's likely, you want to go toward likely? Well, I think what I would like to see some of my, I don't care whether it's my art, my imagery, my something, takes on its own legs and becomes its own creature. I keep one poem from a Russian poet who I don't know her work, but I hang on to that thing, and she has no idea. I've read it at my own readings because it's so beautiful. She has no idea, whoever she is, how this poem has legs over here. And those are the kind that nudges. It nudges and it nudges. Beautiful poem. And so, I've mentored people. I'd love if some of the people I've mentored go on to great things. If any of you have, pay it forward and keep going, please. Don't you dare come and tell me about it. Just keep going. If ever I've mentored someone, I don't care. Keep freaking going, please. If you want to come back, great. We'll do sandwich. I don't care. Not the point. The point is forward, please. Like, I don't need to know. Like, my ego doesn't need to be like massaged knowing that I did the nudge. But the hope is that I would nudge, and that the next generation or the next thing or the next person got the nudge that created the next and the next, and here come the dominoes, you know? So if it's my ego would say, yeah, I hope it's something in my creativity or my words or my language or my stuff. Someone of that does it. But that's getting egotistical. If you're already remembered, who gives a crap why, you know? If you're going to bring ego back in, well, I hope it's nothing nasty, something bad, you know? Because then it's nudging toward evil. Unless it's a cautionary tale, in which case, nudge toward good and I'm fine. So I think I have maybe a little bit more complicated response to that answer, that the ego inside of me would very much like to know I've nudged and I go forward, and the effort of these few years makes benefit in the few years of another life or lives. I mean, of course. But that is still an ego thing to me. And just knowing that it could happen is like, okay, win, done, you nailed it, you know? And I don't even think on that question, because that's not what I'm about. Even if I'm pretty sure I live that question. I'm like constantly panicked about how this is going to impact the next. So yeah, I guess that's the complicated and conceptual way I answer that one.
Amazing. Right, it's not the end yet. Let's play now the word association game, okay? I'm going to give away some words.
I think, and William, I didn't do all my homework, so this is going to be an on the spot, but let's do word association. Let's go.
Just tell one word that comes to your mind. Quick think, just one word, okay?
One word, he says. One word. This is Christian Matyi here, trying to do one word. Here we go.
I'm Scorpio. That's why I'm saying that.
This is worse than trying not to say words. Go on.
So, I hope you are enjoying the interview. Before we do the word association game, don't forget to give a like, don't forget to share this video, and also don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Just click on the button right there. Thank you so much and enjoy the word association game.
Family.
The first word that came to mind was really?
Okay, not a problem. Money.
Fuck.
Love.
Literally, there it was. Because I was going to say another word, but that's the word that came out. So literally.
All right. Life.
Yes.
Sex.
Problem.
Politics.
Go.
Religion.
Why?
Fear.
Okay.
Friendship.
Bracelet.
Desire.
Corny.
Regrets.
Good.
Success.
Boring.
One word for wish.
One. I mean, the word one, I could keep lingering on one, so one.
Happiness.
Us.
One word for Boston.
Brat.
One word for USA.
Fiction.
One word for the Trike Hub.
Finally.
Scorpio Creative. One word.
Kidding.
The other one, the Big Inside podcast. One word.
Miss it. That's 2 words. Miss.
Oh, the last one now. Storyteller. One word.
Breathing.
Amazing. Right. Let's pretend I'm going to meet your best friend for a coffee.
Do I have one? I have a best friend. No,
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. And I'm going to ask your best friends, define Christian in one positive word and one negative word only, what that would be?
Please. No. Oh, that was too easy. I kind of feel like half of them would do that. Be like, please, one positive, one negative. There you go. It kind of fits. So one positive word. That's so vain. I'm not good at it. I guess it would. I don't know. I'll say funny. That's totally arrogant, but I'll say funny. And then one negative word. Heavy. I mean, heavy is neutral, but like in the weight, like weighty sense, like heavy, you know.
Let's play now Christian and the Match.
But I like please better.
Let's play now Christian and the Matchbox, and you can ask me a question. But before that, let's play the music one more time. Carry on. I like it. Carry on. Oh, getting better. Come on.
Yeah. Goddamn Brazilians. Oh my God. Jeez, it's like you talk to a Brazilian for 20 minutes. It's like you end up at an Indian wedding and all you got to do is dance. Come on now. Yeah.
You can ask me a question now, Christian.
All right. So if you had an antelope, no, just kidding. I have good questions, but here's the one that I gotta ask. It's a two-parter.
Okay.
How often do you crush on the people that you have on here? And have you ever actually dated someone you've interviewed? I knew that was going to demolish you. No, because I was scrolling through your things. Let me back up the question. I was scrolling through your things, and there's like a lot of men's in there, and that's fine. And there's women's is in there too. But I'm going like, wait a minute. He's been doing these. There's like hundreds of them. I'm like, the overlap had to happen. So like, have you ever crushed? And the second part is and then actually managed to like either go on a date or connect. He's so red. I'm so glad this is video. You are so red right now.
I love it. Because the other day actually I was thinking about that.
And by the way, the rules of the magic box, you don't have to answer a question if you don't want to.
No. I love the challenge. I love the challenge. I love being the spot, and I'm gonna be very honest to you. Oh my God, I cannot believe I'm gonna say that. Oh my God.
Yes!
Anyway.
Breakthroughs. This is a seminal episode of
I think the whole point of the Matchbox is being honest, and you know what I mean, sharing your, and I'm gonna be there as well. Okay. Right. I'm gonna let me explain things, okay?
Because I had an easier one. I'm not. You don't have to answer it, but just so you know, the easier one was like, "Are you in a hotel right now?" Because those sconces look very like identical. But that's an easy one, so I want you to do the first one.
Okay, so let me explain. So I haven't dated anyone since let's say I have already over 600 people on the show so far. Yeah. So
wow. Just kidding. He's Brazilian. He's Brazilian. They do that.
Oh my God. Anyway, I never dated anyone. Let me explain. I never dated anyone for the Matchbox until I met you. I'm joking.
Oh shit. Also Brazilian. You guys, it's like I love it. No, that's awesome.
Now I'm getting.
He's sweating because he's like. Because that's the thing. No. Here's the deal. No one in the UK is gonna like this one. But like here at least in Boston, you know, easy. You mean UK men? So easy.
Right. Let me tell you now. I haven't dated anyone on the show. Yeah, I haven't dated anyone that I never met before. As you know, I invite random people around the globe. Of course, be honest, sometimes I talk to my best friend, I go like, oh my God, I would marry this person. Oh my God, I would go out with this person. Oh my God, I would date this person. Oh my God, I'd love to see this person more, you know what I mean? Of course, I'm talking to a best friend, so I can be open about it. Yeah, I can, share, but back to your question.
Crushes are real. Crushes happen. Crushes are real.
Of course, and I could go on and on, but no, let me keep, you know what I mean? Too much information right now. But I never dated anyone in the Matchbox saying that, I would love to, because, you know, there are so many interesting people. And actually, you were saying before about, you know, about beauty, about people, you know, selling themselves or showing off things. Actually, that's for me as well. I find it very boring. And the most I get to know the person, the most I get into it. You know what I mean? That's the thing with me. The most I start getting to see who they really are, the way they express themselves, that I get very attached to it. It's a Scorpio thing. I don't know. But anyway, back to your question. I'm running away. I'm getting back again.
No, but what I was just so you know, like, I get that, because it's like, you know, you've never dated someone starting in the magic box, but boy, you want to end up in their magic box. Is that what you're getting at? It was right there. That joke was right. I had to. It would have been irresponsible not to take that joke. Go on.
But I must say, I have, let's say, when I started doing the show, of course, before I start inviting random people, I invited people who I knew already, who I, you know, friends and people who I met. But I must say, I interview, let's say, someone that I had some intimacy before, not dating or not, but you know what I mean? But this person was very interesting, and I was like, okay, let me invite it. I don't know if this person is gonna.
Yeah, I get that.
And the person said yes. I said, okay, why not? So yes, and it was very good to see this person from the other side. It was good to see this person in a different way, like talking as we are talking now, like open, friendly, and that was quite interesting as well.
Yep.
That's my answer to you. I never dated anyone like the Matchbox, but I felt like so many times, I must say, Christian, I'm gonna open to you now. There is sometimes I do interviews, and I go like, oh my goodness, it must be so interesting to date this person, or to live with this person, or to share a life, or to share a moment, or to share, I don't know, something, a moment, just a moment with this person. Of course I have, you know what I mean? I'm not gonna lie, of course, because there are so many interesting people here on the show, and it's so fascinating to see them sharing their lives and their, you know what I mean, their joys and what they like, and it's so wonderful. And of course, sometimes I hang up and I go like, oh, I wish I could, you know what I mean?
That's sweet. That's very sweet.
Of course, I have those moments, but no. Until now, I haven't dated anyone yet.
Right. Well, maybe by 700. And also, the thing that you're saying, it's very true. It's like, you know, I think that whenever you're in any sort of, I mean, I've done tons of interviews as well, and I've mentored adults though, and I, you know, and I work with people, and it's very easy when the person is not self-conscious as they would be, say, on a date, or when, you know, you're in or they are self-conscious, but in a different sort of way. You suddenly, like you said, you're seeing things that they might not otherwise say directly that are more revealing than if you just explain. So it's almost like, instead of having to like hang out for 8 months, you suddenly got the info in like 8 seconds, and that's like, and then you feel confident and magical around the person, and then we turn that into a crush. And you know, so I get that, because I've often said, you know what sexy is, bro. You know what sexy is? Look at me, I'm using, this is the voice I'm supposed to be using, not my.
Ooh, it's working.
Yes,
it's working.
This is actually my real voice. This is my excited voice. This is my real voice.
Ooh.
And so this, like, when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, yo, what's up? It's like dark. No, but like, you know what sexy is? Sexy is curiosity. Full stop. Now listen, if someone makes me curious, they could become sexy to me. And if I'm doing something that makes someone curious, I may seem sexy to them. So curiosity and sexiness are inextricably linked. If you do not create curiosity, you ain't sexy, which means it has nothing to do with your looks. It has nothing to do with your possessions. It has nothing to do with your position in life. Because if you create curiosity, you might become very sexy to the right person. Sexiness is 1-to-1, period. It is not a group effort. This is why we also have this slang term, hot. Hot, we say, is a person who is likely to be sexy to many. That guy's hot, or that girl's hot. She's so hot because like lots of guys will get curious about her. So we say she's hot, but that doesn't describe that she's sexy, because I might not find her sexy. Sexy is always 1-to-1, and it might only go one way, and it might go both ways. It's best when it's both ways. but it's about curiosity. So when people try to, with appeal and attraction, and they're trying to get something, like I want this, I want that, like I'm looking for a person who, I'm trying to find someone who, now that's not curious, is it? That's actually the opposite of curiosity. That's demanding. That's expecting. And so how could someone ever, so then you get stuck. How could someone be sexy if you're going around not being curious or not open to curiosity? And every once in a while, then for those people, someone will sneak through and jangle them a little bit, and they'll get curious, and then they'll, that guy's so sexy, or that, God, she really got me. But it's about curiosity, and we have to remember that. And so when you're doing interviews, to get back to you, William, when you're doing interviews, when you're talking to people, the interviewer's position is automatically curious. So we are a little more vulnerable to finding someone sexy because we're already in the curiosity state, and it takes the tiniest nudge to push us over to like, wow, and they're hot. You know what I mean?
By the way, I just got a hard on now.
There we go.
I'm joking.
But he's Brazilian. They're machines. I'm telling you.
Scorpio.
Everything. Listen, below Colombia, everything. It's all machines. No, just kidding.
I'm joking. No, but understand.
I don't know. Now that I just set back like relations about 3,000 years between North and South America. Oh my God.
No, but yeah, it's interesting, but I'm not lying. I was thinking the other day about that. It's like, my God. Actually, nobody asked this question yet. You see how amazing? I love it. Nobody asked this.
No one has asked you that. I got a good one. So no one has ever asked you about the wall sconces in back of you. They really do look like a hotel. No, I'm joking. If that's your home, I was just so rude. Ignore me.
No, I'm not hotel, actually.
Oh, good. I didn't feel bad. I was going to say.
I'm joking. No, I am.
Okay, all right. That's good. I love your sconces. They're lovely sconces. I feel like sconces are more common in the UK. All my UK friends have sconces. I have a feeling that's a UK thing.
By the way, you put me in the spot. You made me blush. You made me nervous. You made me open up, and you made me answer something that I haven't answered before. So I love it. I love it being in the challenge. I love it. I love that.
Well, it's Scorpio versus Scorpio.
There you go.
They say Scorpio women fight, Scorpio men dance. That's the rule of Scorpio.
Christian, thank you so much for the interview. Did you have a good time?
William, I had a wonderful time. I mean, my ego's inflated, so how could I have had a bad time? No, this was wonderful. I love this project. I think that your idea is so simple. I can see why people enjoy it. I think that that's one thing that we often miss in terms of representing the world to ourselves is start with the stories, start with the people, and then extrapolate big. Everyone tries to extrapolate big and then go down to the story. This is very simple. This is just, let's start with the people. And so I applaud you, friend. It's brilliant. Very well done. And in that respect, if people are listening, whatever Patreon or money-making thing this boy has, would you please hit that? Because as someone who's done a podcast, it's a lot more hours than you think. This guy needs to get paid. If you listen, click a like, click a subscribe. Look, he's not telling me to do this. I just know the business. If you don't, I want to see $1 a month. I don't know what it is. Help him out because you know who doesn't get enough shine? Independent creators outside of established industrial systems, of which this man is. So you're helping the world. You're creating peace, my friends, by giving him $1. Let's go.
Let's go. Christian, thanks so much. Thanks for being kind and sweet. And also thanks for bringing your energy. You know what I mean? I had an astrologer yesterday on the show, and I asked her to, when I do the word association game, I told her all the star signs and for her to tell just one word. And when I said Scorpio, guess which word she said?
Christian. No, just kidding. She said tricub. No, just kidding. She said sexy.
No.
And that would be the obvious one.
I know this.
She said death? Did she go death? Did she say death?
No, I know Scorpio, they are the sexiest of the whole,
We're also the most morbid, so there you go.
Anyway, intense. She said Scorpio, they're very intense. And
Am I intense? That's never been said about me.
You're
no,
so
of course.
Quiet. But before you go, if you can share just a positive message or something that you live by.
Well, I'll go with intensity then. And that pressure and heat is what turns an ugly stone into a diamond. And we say these are very precious. So if there's intensity around you, maybe you're on your way to becoming a diamond. So while you have to take care of yourself, gird yourself, all those things, don't assume all intensity is attack. Because while there's heat and there's pressure and it's panicky, you could become a diamond.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
That was good for improv. Oh, I'm brimming with bull. I love it. That was great, dude. All right, I got to write that one down. Aaron, go on. No, you finish your show.
Thank you so much, Christian. I really enjoyed. Thanks so much for being part of the show, and you keep in touch, okay? And I'll see you in Boston one day.
Yes, I would look forward to it. Thank you so much, William. This was wonderful.
Take care, okay? Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
So, did you like the show? Don't forget to give a like, share it, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to be part of the show as well, first, subscribe to our channel, and after that, just go to our website, www.williamandthemagicbox.com, and send us a request saying why would you like to be part of the show. And I see you there. Bye bye, see you next time.